Today's episode we have Andre Rabe. Rabe or Rabe?
Rabe. The way you said it the first time.
Rabe.
Very good.
Rabe. Okay, so that's confirmed straight from Andre's mouth. It is now Rabe. So anyone who says Rabe, no, that's not the correct pronunciation. So Andre and his wife Marianne are from South Africa.
Yes,
Yeah.
Originally. We also lived in the UK for about 10 years. So then we've travelled for to about 25 countries over the past 7 years, and to many of the states as well, about 35 of the states. So
that's a lot more than
when you travel that much, sometimes you don't quite know where you're from.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and then you had mentioned, first of all, 35 states is like probably 20 more than I've been to.
Okay.
And I'm from Virginia. I could go anywhere, but I'm actually not much of a traveler. I'm the exact opposite, where I'm just a homebody.
Yeah.
Like, I think in the last month or so, I've spent 95% of my free time in the house. Just binging a TV show or working from the computer or doing something that just doesn't involve a lot of other people or any
It's
kind
nice
of
to do that from time to
Yeah.
time, but boy, there's some amazing people to be met out there.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
As a photographer, I meet like 200 new people every single weekend.
Yes.
And it actually takes me to some pretty scenic locations.
Yeah.
I was in one location recently where this vineyard was on top of its own little hill, surrounded by mountains on every side.
Wow.
And it was like thunderstorming from far away on one side and the sun setting from the other. So we get this beautiful sunset on the left and this enormous rainbow on the right.
Wow.
Like, talk about picturesque. Like, this couple couldn't be any luckier, and they were so fortunate, and they really just deserved to have a beautiful wedding day, and it was incredible. But you had mentioned too that you guys had traveled nonstop for like 6 years.
So we started in the end of 2010, and yes, when I say we started traveling, it's a bit different from what most people imagine. We literally, for that 6 years, we were somewhere else every week and met an amazing amount of people all over, faith communities that would just ask us to come and converse with them. And that was a beautiful journey to experience where people are at, to experience the questions and the excitement and where we're moving. About just over a year ago, we decided to settle again, to have a home base. Because we have an online school, we wanted to spend more time with our students preparing material. So we still travel like we do now, but it's more reasonable in terms of we go for about 2 or 3 months at a time.
Right.
And then we return to South Africa, to Hermanus. It's a beautiful town, about an hour and a half outside of Cape Town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Worth visiting, in other words?
Oh, yes.
Definitely?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
We had 10 of our students come the beginning of this year from all over, and they spent 8 days with us there. Yeah. And what an amazing conversation, and just traveling to different wine farms and conversing and eating and kayaking. It was a fun time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so when you mention students, that means it's part of some kind of school?
Yes, so our online school, Mimesis.academy, is a year-long program. And if I look at the testimonies of the students, which I always think it's the best thing to judge any program by the fruit, most of them testify of a form of transformation, whether it's an intellectual conversion or whether it's life has been transformed through the conversations that they had through that year. So the aim of the school is not really to just overpower people with information,
right,
but rather to start walking a journey and start having a conversation that is transformative. Because I think the most deeply transformative moments in our lives are very often very lonely. And I think there's a part of specifically our spiritual transformation that no one can walk with us. It's really a place where you might even lose yourself. So there's no one there with you. But there's a beautiful part of that journey that should be walked in conversation and friendship with others. And so that's really what the school is about, to provide that safe environment for people to walk through those deep questions and those deep transformations in understanding.
So it's kind of like Mimesis Academy and Journey.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
But when you mentioned the whole bit about, there's kind of sidetracking a little bit, but when you mentioned the part about sometimes people have to go through a part of their journey by themselves. No one can walk with them inside. That I immediately think of like Jesus going to the wilderness.
Yes.
Jesus praying in the garden.
Yeah.
And maybe he's not lonely, but he's alone.
Yes.
In that sense. And it's usually there's some type of like going into a place that seems almost dark and mysterious, and you're not sure why you're there until you get there.
And absolutely, and it's mentioned quite often how Jesus purposely go to be on his own. So I think there's part of it that should just be a habit. I think it's a beautiful habit to, on a daily basis, just center and become aware of this present moment, this gift of the God that's within. But I think then also that periods that you mentioned where, for instance, when he fed the 5,000, he multiplied the bread and the fish, and they want to force him to be king. He withdraws into the wilderness because it seemed like this is a very tough decision, because he has an opportunity to make his message really count.
Right.
He's got the support of his whole crowd. It's almost the same temptation that we find in Matthew, where Matthew used much more picturesque language, where the devil tells him, just bow down to me and I'll give you all the kingdoms. But John tells the same story, the same temptation, but in John, temptation always comes through people, not through a personified devil. And so it's the people that says, let's just make you king.
Yeah.
And then, just bow down to our way of doing things,
right,
to our kind of dominion. And then you'll have this whole country will listen to you. And so it's a real temptation that he has to draw away from. And I think a deep encounter is necessary to help him make the right decision in that period. And it is lonely. Yeah.
Well, this makes me appreciative that you're willing to do the podcast episode today, because apparently somehow you were called today to do this at some point. Because he could have totally said no, and I would have been like, yeah, I shouldn't be mad at him saying no, because this is like who he is, and this is what he's been called to do, and that has nothing to do with me.
No, it's an absolute privilege.
Yeah. And so I have this, I almost want to call it a game, but it's not a game, but this sort of segment that I call C&R, comment and response, as opposed to question and answer.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, just for the sake of anybody who's new to you and Marianne's ministry and what you guys do, can you just kind of briefly share like what Always Love and the ministry of Andre Rabe is all about?
Okay. I guess what ignited our hearts originally is something that we have discovered to be inexhaustible. And that is, as teenagers, we both discovered that God is much more than a religious set of principles, much more than a set of beliefs, even more than the scriptures. I remember I just finished school and I went on this outreach team and met Mary Ann. Knew she's my wife, and so a few weeks later I came back to my parents' home with Mary Ann and said, "This is going to be my wife," which was quite a shock for them.
Should have seen Andre's eyes just light up when he said that, by the way.
And so she stayed over for the weekend to meet my parents, and one of the mornings I went, took her coffee to her room, and as I walked in, she sat up and her eyes were as big as saucers. And she started telling me about this dream, and at that stage, being involved in ministry in the rural areas, we would do plays on the street and all kinds of things to just gather an audience. And she was dreaming that we were doing this play to an audience in the open, and it was the scene where Mary and the woman walked into the tomb, into the empty tomb, and she was playing the part of the narrator, and she was reading out of this big Bible on top of a podium that they walked in, and they came out, and so the actors would play this part behind her, and they came out saying, "He's not here, he's alive." And when she said that, the words were so hollow. He's alive. And suddenly this whirlwind rushed onto the stage and started churning the scriptures, the Bible, and started tearing pieces of the text and the pages out of this Bible. And this booming voice said, "I'm alive. I'm alive in you." And with this, she woke up, and the experience was that the whirlwind was within her. And the scripture suddenly came to mind, that you search the scriptures, for in them you think you find life. But these are they that testify of me. And so at that age, at the early age, we started recognizing that we are dealing with more than just belief systems, that even the scriptures points to a reality greater than themselves. They point to the reality of this God who sustains me in existence from moment to moment. This God who's alive in my life. This God who entangles himself in my story. And so it is that appreciation of the living reality of participating in the life of God that, found many more words and many more ways of expressing itself through the decades. But I think that's the heart of it.
Okay.
What does it mean to participate in the life of God?
So I thought of an image. It's as if you ever watched Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Every child is after that golden ticket.
Yes.
Right? But the golden ticket's an invitation to the reality of this amazing chocolate factory and meeting this man that nobody knows who he really is. And if you just stop at the golden ticket, that's not the fullness of that reality.
Yes.
Or being given a ticket to the best concert ever would not be enough. You actually have to go to experience that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love
Suddenly got excited on the inside. I'm kind of containing that a little bit at the moment.
Get as excited as you want to be.
Okay. All right. Well,
that is such a beautiful picture, because, how much satisfaction is it going to produce? How many times can you turn the golden ticket around and interpret the invitation in another way? And interpret its background, analyze it. Eventually you want to partake of the reality of that chocolate.
But if you don't know that there's another fullness of reality beyond just that, it's it is exhaustible.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Because you could probably come to the end of studying that ticket and knowing everything about it, and feel like how she felt in that dream, like he's alive. Oh, it's so hollow.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Suddenly, I don't feel as hollow in this moment.
I love the idea of the broadcast name as well, Trinity, which is
Trinity Happy Hour.
Yes, obviously this invitation to participate, and we've used this big word Trinity, but all it is this movement of relationship, this exchange of life that is continually happening. A father that always pours himself out in the birth of his son, or another way of saying it, a God who always is in the process of becoming. The incarnation is that picture of the Word becoming flesh, of all of creation is participating in this moment in the infinite generosity of God, pouring himself out into existence. And to participate in that, wow, what a beautiful invitation.
Yeah. So I want to invite you into this comment and response segment. And I think, like, for me, like just the wide range of personalities people have and their experiences and how they react to things in this world lead to different ways in which we speak to ourselves. And in particular, the way we speak to ourselves in a sort of self-condemning way, identifying ourselves in ways that aren't very healthy, like saying, like, I'm not enough, or I'm not pretty enough, I'm not loved, I don't matter, things like that. So I thought about, like, what are various personality types, and what are ways in which people identify with the world, and what are some things they might say about themselves that maybe you could respond to in the wisdom that you've kind of captured, to this day.
Okay, well,
so
that's a
if you want
fun and interesting way of doing it.
I was going to say, I don't know if you've ever done anything like that, but I think that you might have a ball with it, and if you don't, just keep it to yourself and don't tell me. So I'll go off some of the notes I have here, and if I have some ones that just kind of pop up, I'll bring those to mind. But here's a type of person who's just like, I value honesty. Like, integrity is a big part of me. I have very high standards for myself. I value fairness. I value justice. Ethics are very important to me. I want everyone to be treated fairly. And if they're not, I will seek out ways in which they are treated fairly.
Okay.
This makes me a bit rigid in my views. Like, I'm right. You're probably wrong. In fact, you're definitely wrong when it comes to this, this, and this. I become harsh with myself as a result sometimes because I'm so self-critical, and I wish I wasn't, but I don't know how to turn that switch off. I criticize myself on the inside all the time.
Yes. Wow. And that kind of personality that often gets involved, I think, in causes, especially causes that has to do with social justice. And to an extent, all of us, share a bit of the different personality types. But when that's the main one, as you say, it becomes very much black and white, right and wrong, and a person like that very easily exhausts themselves in trying to set everything right. And every personality group has got that place where you can push yourself to a place where your strengths become weaknesses, and how to make your weaknesses strengths again is, I think, the aim of the question. So, specifically the way in which you become very self-critical. So, in that area of things are, in that dualistic way of thinking, things are either right or wrong, either black and white. And if something's wrong, we need to set it right. We need to take action. When that then turns into self-condemnation, that I'm not doing all I can do to set things right. But I think part of what can be very beneficial is to actually acknowledge to yourself that that is my personality type, that self-knowledge, to understand that why am I so driven, and then to come to the very sobering, I think, conclusion that of course all of us can do something towards making this world a better place, but the destiny of this world in reality does not depend on you alone. That every act of kindness is a victory over evil. And I might not be able to change every government policy I don't agree with. I might not be able to challenge every world situation that is not completely just. But become appreciative of the fact that in you, God has a unique location and a unique face and a unique voice that He has nowhere else. And so your voice and your location counts. And to try and make yourself omnipresent and solving the world's problems is probably going to be incredibly exhausting and not good for you or anybody else. And so I think with all of these things, just coming to, first of all, that acknowledgement of this is my personality type. The ancient church fathers took that verse, you will love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind and with all your strength. And they developed around that different personality types. So there are heart types, those are the people who connect with others, who almost lose themselves in relationship with others, continually wanting to give. There are the head types, people who are engaged mentally, who's continually constructing reality, who lives in the anticipation of how is this going to unfold. And then there's the action types, the strength types, and very often the people who are very focused on social justice, on right or wrong, the people who want to take action to do things fall in that category. And once you acknowledge where you sit, it's also so much more easier to have sympathy for people in the other camps as well.
All right, so I think you know sort of the direction we're going with all this kind of stuff. All right, so there's number two. There's a type that's aware of just this heart connection, right? I'm here to take care of others. Being sensitive is just a part of me, and I enjoy being sensitive to the needs of others. All you need is love. Like love is like my thing. And I just want to love others, and I want people to love each other as well. Inside of that, I forget to take care of my own needs. I forget to take care of myself. I don't know what loving myself looks like. Like, am I truly loved? Do I know how to love me? Does anyone know how to love me?
Wow. And something that is very often within that group difficult to acknowledge is that the heart of their weakness is probably a type of pride. Because I'm okay, but what do you need?
Yeah.
Now, I'm okay, but how can I help you? And so, but to continually live in that place of, I just want to help others. I just want to pour myself out. There's obviously something beautifully positive about it. But it can lead to that place where you completely lose yourself and exhaust yourself because you never take the time to actually think of your own needs. And at the heart of that, it can be this beautiful selfless giving. But if it becomes perverted, it becomes this unconscious pride of, I don't need anything. I just need to know what you need.
Yeah.
I don't have particular needs. I'm just here to help you. And so sadly, sadly this type of pride can creep in there, and that, like all the things, it's always difficult acknowledging the weaknesses in our personality traits. But I think what is beautifully positive in that self-giving type of person is to balance it with the fact that I'm going to take time out for myself. Again, for everyone, as we spoke earlier, that practice of spending some time alone, of just, and we practice centering prayer, so we take 20 minutes in the morning and in the evening where you're just quiet, you just center on the God who is within. You connect with Jesus in ways that you don't do with lots of words and lots of actions. And so I think that would be particularly helpful for a person who's the whole time connected with others outside of themselves, to have that moment in which I'm not connected. Purposely, I'm disconnecting with what's outside and connecting with the presence of God within me, and allow Him to, unveil to me that I too have needs. And I think you will start noticing that in the ability to say no, because this personality type is very often, it's very difficult for them to say no. I want to be there, I want to help, I want to do what's needed. And to actually realize that there are times and places where you should say no is probably a very positive development.
Do you think you have to know what to say, what your yes is before your no is? Like what you're going to say yes to?
Yes.
In life?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think in that group as well to become aware of this is the time and space that I need for myself will, I think, make it clear what do I need to say no to them. But I do have some boundaries of I can go for so many hours giving, but which, for the head types, I didn't even know you had these personality types. It's quite amazing that you took us through that. But for the head types, it's quite easy.
We're on the same page. I think we know what we
Yeah, for the head types, they can say no to everything, and they find the presence and the being with people for too long quite exhausting. But the heart types, they'll just continue pouring themselves out until there's nothing
saying
left.
no is like a sin.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and within heart types, there's the type of person that's like, I am made to like serve. Like I want my hands to be on something, doing something for others. Like, my work is very important to me. Because I identify myself as someone who volunteers or as for a living works as somebody who's like a social worker, or I guess got to do something to make someone's world a better place.
Yes.
But I also forget, like, what is it that I need inside of that as well. And you kind of touched a lot on just understanding that we do have needs
Absolutely.
that need to be met, like not just trying to meet the needs of others.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Okay. There's the type. I think this is more of like a head type. I want to understand the world. Like appearances aren't enough. Like just what I see in front of me is not enough. There's something more there to try to understand. And I want to investigate what that whole thing's all about, which makes me pretty obsessive about learning everything that I possibly can.
Yeah.
I have engineer friends that are like this. So I get lost in the information and I start maybe... It seems to others that I'm excluding them from my life.
Yeah.
Because I'm so focused on just the information of things.
Yes. Yes. And the reason it appears to others as if you're excluding them is because in a sense you are. I think head types are the types of people who live in anticipation. So they live in their minds, and they very often miss the beauty of the moment. It's quite easy to be with them, and even while they're experiencing something, they are already busy with where is this leading, where is this going, what does this mean? And so we're not really that present in this moment. We're constantly analyzing what has been and anticipating what will be. And again, acknowledging that is one of the first things to improving that situation. So typically a head type might have a richer memory of the experience than what they have in the moment. So they'll go away from an experience and reanalyze it, and find the beauty in it and find the meaning in it in a positive way, or they might find the negative thing in the way. But they will enrich a memory by reanalyzing it, all happening in the head. And so yes, I think that can lead to the fact that the actual reality of the immediacy of this moment is very often lost because we're so occupied in our minds, in understanding it. And so to purposely, again, begin to practice the awareness of the moment, to catch yourself in that process of analysis, or that process of anticipation. So I call it anticipation because this personality type, the positive side of it is it can be a beautiful, joyful anticipation if we develop it in a healthy way. But very often it manifests in fear. The reason this personality type is constantly analyzing on the negative side is because fear is the foundation of that mental occupation.
Right. If things aren't secure or stable, something's wrong.
If I don't know it, if I don't understand it, if I don't, fully grasp it, there's a level of fear as to what this might mean, what this could do to me, how this can unfold. So again, to acknowledge that, and then I think it's so beautiful, 1 John 4, I think 17, that love casts out fear. But there's an awareness where you cannot be aware of being loved in this moment and be fearful at the same time. And God brings such a beautiful awareness of this moment that right now, in the immediacy of this moment, I am loved. And this experience of having my friends around me, of having my family here, or whatever the experience might be right now. This is a gift. Mm-hmm. And a gift is not something I'm entitled to. I'm not entitled to my next minute, to my next hour, to my next week. Every moment is a gift. And
whether your friends and family are there or not.
Exactly. But the immediacy of this moment is a gift. And I don't want to miss it because mentally I'm somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. In the future.
In the future, analysing the past. So again, there's beautiful, positive possibilities within that personality type. Boy, are they able to explain and expound ideas and explore in exciting ways the possibilities of what could be. But at the same time, on the negative side, it's quite easy to get into that place where you're not present. And your presence is the most beautiful gift, the most valuable gift you can give to anyone, is your presence. And this present moment is a gift. and I, again, within centering prayer, there's that beautiful place where I don't allow my thoughts to drift to what was or to what is to come. But in centering prayer, I'm appreciative of the presence of God, and presence is both location-based and time-based. Presence is not yesterday or tomorrow. Presence is not out there. Presence is right here, right now.
Yeah.
I'm centering on that.
So in center, so I had this funny thought in my head. It's like, does Andre think that my presence is a gift to him?
Yeah, of course.
So here's the funny thing about that is, like, as you're talking about, presence and appreciating that is, it's a gift to have the presence of here and now.
Yes.
God being here, us appreciating the presence of God. But it's harder to believe, moment by moment, that I would be a gift to God, or that my presence would be a gift to God.
Yeah.
Because we're so used to thinking, like, what is it that we can give, or what is it that God's done for us that we should appreciate, and how can we serve Him back, you know what I mean? Like, kind of match what He's done, if you will.
Yes.
But we don't often think of ourselves as being a gift toward God,
yes,
in that sense. But if it's hard to believe that we could possibly be that, right?
And I guess that brings us back to the very foundation of reality. What is it that motivated God to create? What was God thinking? Was it some desperate need that forced him? Was he just lonely? Did he need entertainment? What is it that motivated him? And in Ephesians 1, Paul starts exploring the beautiful idea that this God does what pleases him. This God is driven by desire. And over in the first chapter it says, according to his good pleasure. He thinks of us, verse 4, he knew you before the foundation of the earth. He has this joyful anticipation of your existence. And it's the thought of you that is such a pleasure for God. But he puts flesh to that thought, and the word became flesh. And here you are. And to start understanding the difference between need and desire, I think will open this up. We're sitting here in Virginia at the moment. in Chesapeake, Virginia, and it's a hot, humid day. If you walk around for a few minutes outside, you're sweating. We went down to the beach with Joel and Noel and the family this morning. Hot. And there's a time where you get thirsty. Mm-hmm. And it's a biological need. And I don't care what fluid is available. I just want to satisfy this need, whether it's water or a cold drink or a beer or whatever. This need to satisfy the thirst can come upon you here quite quickly. And but then there is another kind of the experience of desire is different. And I've often used this example, but during this time where we traveled so much, I woke up one morning and I normally have to think, okay, what continent are we on? What town are we on? And I kind of remembered, okay, we're staying with our friends here in Port Orchard. And then I think, what's on today? And I remembered I had a dental appointment. And our friend's an amazing dentist, but I don't think many people look forward to a dental appointment because I didn't know what was...
I had one coming up.
So I woke up with this thought, we're going to the dentist today. And kind of wasn't that excited about it. And then I remembered, just round the corner, there's the most amazing little coffee shop, Valhalla coffee shop. It's the Viking heaven. And they roast their beans fresh in the little shop every morning. When they take them out the roaster, so the smell as you walk in just permeates this whole shop. They take it out the roaster and they put it in the grinder, grind it fresh, and then produce this coffee that is just so creamy. You don't even have to put milk in it, It's just a beautiful cup of coffee. So suddenly this cup of coffee presented itself to my imagination, awakened my desire, and suddenly my life had purpose again, and the day was exciting, and I could face the fact that I had the dental appointment. It all became exciting again.
Yeah.
And so you can see the difference between need and desire. I wasn't thirsty. It wasn't the need that made that coffee desirable. In fact, I could get up, have a cup of water, but my desire will not be satisfied unless I have that cup of coffee. And so once you see the difference between need and desire, I think the gospel becomes clearer. Because in a sense, the gospel is this gloriously good news that you are completely and utterly unnecessary.
Right.
That there was no need in God that motivated him to create you. That it wasn't even some great purpose or plan that you had to fit in exactly for him to achieve his goal upon this earth. Now, I know that might be disturbing in one way, if you think that you find your value in, fulfilling your purpose in God's kingdom. That might be a bit threatening.
Right.
But to start understanding that God had no needs, that God was sufficient without you, and actually he'll make it without you. That you exist as the overflow of desire. In fact, that all things exist is pure grace. It is pure givenness. It is God overflowing, pouring himself out into existence. And once we start seeing that all of creation is incarnation, John 1 verse 3, that all things exist through this word. And in verse 14, and the word became flesh and tabernacled in us. Of his fullness we have all received grace upon grace. Again, our existence, is this continual pouring out of the fullness of God in absolute grace, not obligation upon obligation. God's not obliged to sustain anything in existence. It's just what God is. God is the givenness, the generosity, the grace that makes existence possible. Why is there something rather than nothing? Well, there's no good reason except that God overflows because he wants to.
He desires to.
Yes. And suddenly I can look at my life and say, wow, if my existence, moment by moment, is a gift, then I have no greater joy or purpose in existing but to give it again.
Right.
And I exist simply because God desires me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the day-to-day needs that we all have, like, they're important.
Yeah.
And shouldn't be disregarded. But when there's this beautiful gospel truth that is given, it can remind us of there's more to it than just what I'm thinking about in this current moment. Like, whether my thoughts are, I'm totally loved today, or I don't know if I'm loved at all.
Yeah.
You know? I guess where I'm getting at is like, for anyone who's saying I'm not enough, or I'm not worthy, I'm inadequate,
Yeah.
I'm not loved, I have no business being here. Like, all these very self-condemning thoughts to have, no matter which personality type you are.
Yeah.
Can we all be awakened to this knowledge that God desires us? That
absolutely.
regardless of our needs, like, he didn't have a need to create us, like you're saying. Like, for me, I think the thing that I currently struggle with the most is with the statement that I'm not enough. Like, I'm horribly self-critical in my own head quite a bit. Maybe in my artwork, I don't strive for every last little thing to be absolutely perfect, because I've gotten better at that over the years. Yeah. But with my character, like the inner integrity of like what I know to be me versus what I've done. I'm like, gosh, like every mistake is a catastrophe. I'm still not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not behaving well enough. You know, I'm just not perfect. And I really wish I was, because then I would have less regrets. You know? I would make fewer mistakes, and I wouldn't have to be so ashamed of myself for all these different things. You know?
And wow, I think that is such a fundamental part of this gospel that comes to embrace us with this declaration that right where you are now, who you are now, is fully and completely accepted. That you are fully accepted. You know, that's that beautiful moment of also seeing that my very existence now is evidence that I am desired and I am loved. So again, when we perceive creation not as a past event, but as this ongoing relationship, then I look at myself not as a mistake that happened in the past, or something that, you know, God kind of started me, but boy, does he regret what he began.
A lot of people feel that way. A lot. All of us at one point or another feel that way, I should say.
But I think the incarnation is this declaration that creation is happening.
Okay.
Creation is not something that happened in the past and God withdrew and is just watching us from a distance. So in Jesus, we do not meet a God who just calls us to a greater level of spirituality and says, hey, you really need to ascend to a greater level of perfection. But in Jesus, we meet the God who descends into our humanity. Now, the story you were telling of our self-condemnation, of our sense of lack, I think that's where the human story, one of the versions, has its origin in Genesis 3, a profound piece of literature that explores the human psyche. And the story begins with a humanity with such a sense of lack that they will grasp after every fruit that promises to give them more being, that promises to make them more like God. So that is the human story. To a very large extent, what you've explained is every human story. But Jesus comes to invert that story, to subvert that story, because in Jesus, in Philippians, we read about a God who empties himself into human form and does not consider equality with God as something to be grasped for, but is just,
like we do.
Yes,
I grasp equality
Yes.
with God, or try to all the time.
And can you see how he subverts that story? That, guys, you have this story wrong. Mm-hmm. You have such a sense of lack that you're trying to become more like God. But I'm trying to introduce you to a story where God sees such value, such beauty, such meaning in your life that he becomes human. And so if God desires to be human, is there maybe something about your humanity that you're missing? Uh-huh. Is there something about the beauty and the meaning of this moment that you're missing, grasping for an imaginary perfection that does not exist? We have a precious friend, Steve Murray, lives near Austin, and I remember the first time we met, we were with a group in Austin. This is about 7 years ago, and we had such a fantastic time of fellowship. And everybody said, we need to get together a bit more. And he particularly said afterwards, guys, let's make a plan to get together. And I kind of knew if anything was going to happen, it was going to happen at their house. Mm-hmm. But in speaking to him, I quickly realized that he had some real reservations about it. So for whatever reason, he became, whatever happened in his background or personality type, he became quite perfectionistic, which is another thing you mentioned. And so the idea of a whole bunch of people coming and messing up my home, just for the sake of fellowship, was not very appealing. And he wrote to me one day about the experience he had in his time with the Lord in the morning. He was keeping a journal, and he suddenly was caught away in this vision where he saw Jesus standing in the kitchen chopping vegetables. And he looked at him, but it was so messy. My goodness, there were carrots flying everywhere and juice, and when he grabbed tomatoes, started slicing, and it was messing. And he walked into the kitchen and he said, Jesus, because he's not too surprised to see Jesus there, but he's disturbed that Jesus is making a mess. And he's walking into the kitchen and he wants to say, Jesus, and Jesus says, hey, Steve. And he said, what are you doing? And he said, I'm making some salad and we're having people around it. And he said, but Jesus, you're making a mess. And just Jesus looked at him while he's still chopping the vegetables, smiling, and he said, yes, Steve, love is messy. Mm-hmm. And I think for us to start realizing that there's space as well to allow love to enter our mess, to allow love to make a bit of a mess.
Oh my gosh. I was in Mississippi, and we're on this at the Perichoresis conference, and we're all told to go and kind of take a silent time, like 30 minutes or so. So I went for a walk, and during my walk, I just sensed like God was saying, like when I was kind of alone, nobody was around, like there was this little patch of dirt next to these trees off to the side of the road, and he's saying, I want you to get down on your knees and pray or do something, And I was like, the first thought in my head was, but I'll get my knees dirty. And so this is my experience from when I was a kid. I had a family member who's just like, every time they gave me or my brother a bath, they're just like, you're so dirty, just like scrubbing us. I mean, like about to take layers of skin off, because we're so dirty. We're just, we're not clean enough, this and that. And that has stuck with me, ever since I was a young child. And God was saying in that moment, I got down on my knees, and he's saying, do you not think I would love you even if your knees were a little dirty? Saying, even if you've made mistakes, or even if you've done things that, aren't loving or healthy towards others, or even toward yourself, do you think I want to love you inside that mess? It's okay if you're dirty. Like, you're still welcome. That brought me to tears. I was like, oh my gosh. That's what love looks like. And that's so hard, sometimes to accept, but like that reminder, and is beautiful. And I can't always remind myself, like someone else has to do it for me, which is great. That I don't have to do this life by myself. Like, what a reminder there.
And the end is right into the middle of our mess.
Yes. All right. So
that's his best work there.
So we're coming up to the end of our time. Just want to give a few plugs and just fill me in if I miss anything. But the website for Andre and Marianne Rabe is alwaysloved.net.
Correct.
And there you can find a schedule of where they're going to be in case you want to get involved. You'll be in the States for a little while?
Yes, for another few weeks.
Another few weeks? Yes. Okay. So right now it's July. Is it July? Yeah, it's July. Oh my gosh. All right, so it's July, and they'll be in the States for another few weeks. But you go on tours every now and again, so you might be back here and there. But whether you've heard of Andre and Marianne or not, they have a lot of videos on their website from various talks. I mean, not just various, a lot of talks. You can go on YouTube and search their names. And as well, there's a lot of books you've written, right? I have The Word Made Flesh, which I really enjoyed. But what's the most recent?
The latest one is Desire Found Me.
That's right, Desire Found Me. And correct me if I'm wrong, was there like some sort of companion with that, or was it just the book?
No, the Desire Found Me book also serves as an introduction to the Mimesis Academy,
right?
Which is a year-long program.
Right.
But that's the latest book.
Gotcha. And Marianne also does music.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
And she just released a CD, an album about a month ago. It's called To Be Seen. And you can go listen to it online. You can get it digitally as well there, but you can go listen to some of the songs, see if you want to get it. But that is such a joy when she takes these beautiful thoughts and put it to music.
Oh, yes.
Kind of finds an entrance into your heart much easier.
Yeah, right on. All right. Anything else that you might want to plug?
I think from there you'll find all our links to the Academy and everything else. The Academy, because it's a year-long program, it is full for this year. But we'll open up registrations in September for the 2018 year. And we only take about 60 students per year. So if you're interested, go have a look and try and register early.
And how many students?
60.
60.
Yeah.
Not 16, but
No,
60.
60.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still kind of a small number compared to the world, like where people are different,
Yeah.
coming from different countries and whatnot, I would imagine. But
we've kind of filled that up every year.
Yeah.
But that means that we can still personally correspond
Right.
with everyone that's on the course, which is what we wanted to do.
Right.
We wanted to take this conversation much deeper and further and on a personal level with people, and that's kind of the extent to which we are able to commit ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one last thing, if you've taught on various different things, but let's say someone wants to listen to you, and I know a number of people will want to who have never heard what you've had to say before, other than this episode. Is there a place you would have them start?
I would. The easiest would probably be to go to our YouTube channel, and there's a few playlists. There's about 3 or 4 playlists that's available there, and I would probably start with the one called Mimetic Desire, from the Old Testament to Jesus. And that kind of gives you a broad introduction. And then there's a few other playlists.
Okay, so going to searching for Always Loved on YouTube and looking for the playlist titled Mimetic Desire.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome.
And something that's maybe just more quick and easier to introduce friends to is the video called Icons of Beauty.
Icons of Beauty.
Yeah.
Shot and documented by your son, Eugene.
Yes.
It's incredible. Definitely check it out. The visuals alone will make you gasp in awe. Just how beautiful the video is. Shot on, where was the location?
That was in Cape Point.
Cape Point.
In South Africa. Just a
even
stunning, beautiful nature reserve there. Yeah.
Right on. Thank you. Thank you for being on
James,
the
it was
episode.
such a joy chatting to you and meeting you, and hope we can do this one day again.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for tuning in and joining us on this episode of the Trinity Happy Hour. As always, we hope you found the discussion encouraging and enlightening, or at least thought-provoking. Like always, you can find us at trinityhappyhour.com, at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram on Trinity Happy Hour. While you're on the website, if you haven't already, sign up for our mailing list to get news and announcements and links to new episodes when they're posted. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Google Play Music, Pocket Cast, Pocket Catcher, all the normal place you find podcasts. I'm assuming since you're listening, you already found us somewhere. So wherever you find us, wherever you listen, please review and rate the show if you haven't already. Those reviews are very helpful to us, very encouraging to us as well, and it helps spread the show out there. So also share the show with family and friends if there was anything in here you thought would be helpful to them. And like we always say, we